What's up? What's going on? So I got another topic that I want to discuss. And it's kind of funny how these things come about, because I really don't plan to ever talk about anything. It just comes about. I end up having a conversation with someone and I'm like, maybe I should explain that to people a little more, because I've come to the understanding that people don't understand the fundamentals of life. And I don't know why that is exactly. I guess people haven't been made to live a certain way, so they've been kind of buffered from having to learn those hard lessons that give you the fundamentals of life. But anyways, what I want to talk about is human nature and socialization. In psychology, there are 3 ways that a person comes about to form a personality. One is their biological predisposition, meaning like there are some people who are afraid of snakes and some people who are afraid of rats, etc., etc. And most scientists akin this to a biological predisposition, which forms a part of your personality traits, because fear is a part of your personality, what you fear. The other portion of it is your psychological status, your psychological state, how that plays into your personality is what things have happened to you or what things have not happened to you that help you process the environment around you. It's almost like it kind of boils down to a core belief system of how you form your psychology, of how you perceive the world. Let me think of an example for that. That would be, for instance, womb imprint. That is a partly biological thing, but it's also a psychological thing, because of the male's impression on that woman. He got into her psychology and he imprinted her. Also, like I said, the biology portion of it. Maybe that's a bad example, but anyways, you can look into these things. This pretty common knowledge these days. The third portion of it is this social part of it. This revolves around upbringing. This revolves around interactions that you have with other people. This revolves around the interactions that you have with yourself, which also plays into the part of the psychology. I mean, they're all piggyback off of one another based on the situation and the circumstances that you're dealing with. So you can't really have one independently without the other. That's the point I'm trying to make. But these are the 3 things that make up a person's personality. Why I bring this up is because a lot of people are getting away from understanding that a person's nature is separate from their socialization. Like I stated earlier, your socialization are the things that is you interacting with your environment. That's what your socialization is. It's how you deal with things, how your experience is going to play out from your past into your present and into your future. For instance, someone who had an abusive parent probably now has a form of psychosis, but it's a derivative to their social interactions from their parent. So they are fearful, when people jump at them, or, they're fearful when people abandon them, etc., etc. That's how you socially are groomed to behave a certain way. Now, the other portion of it is the biology, the biological portion of it. That's why I want to make those two clear differentiations between those, so that people understand where I'm coming from when I say people have gotten away from understanding that biology and the person's socialization are two different things. In this society, we are very accepting of female nature. We accept, to a degree, but there are a lot of things that we accept as, we chalk it up as, that's just how women are. We don't make any concessions with we don't often make any concessions with it. Real men who understand this, they just accept things for what they are when it comes to female nature. Now, this has been also a big push from women to accept their nature. Women don't even like dealing with women on a certain level, so they understand full well a woman's nature, because they know what they're capable of, because they harness that within themselves. It's just that some choose to act on it, some choose not to act on it, and that goes back to the social part of it. How was their upbringing, their morality, their belief system, their core values, things like that. Because there was a certain period of time in our history that we can remember, and there are still people who are living now who believe in marriage values because they've seen their parents do it. So that's a social grooming that was passed down throughout their generation. It doesn't always get passed down, but if you see that these days, more than likely those people had parents who did the same thing. But anyways, what I want people to understand is that you can't deprogram a person's biology. It's really not possible. It's not possible at all. I was having this conversation earlier today about monogamy. And I'm not going to get into a whole big spiel about that, but that can be another video in itself. But the point that I was making to the individual was that it was a woman, by the way. She was expecting for men to be monogamous. And I told her that's unrealistic. It's an unrealistic belief system. And I told her that, her belief system is rooted in a fantasy world, because nothing in the reality has showed her that the majority of men are monogamous. It doesn't exist. It's expecting a snake to bark. I mean, we can imagine what that looks like in our head, and maybe we've seen it on TV, but have you ever seen that in real life? To the point where you believe that such a thing exists, so much so that you believe that's the standard for an interaction between a man and a woman? Not necessarily. There's a scientific term, and I can't think of it currently, but I believe it's called selective monogamy, or it's something along those lines. I'll get back to you guys on that one. But it's where we as humans have short spurts of what we consider monogamous relationships with different people throughout our lifetime. So for instance, you'll have a short stint with a guy for 4 years. You have a short stint with a guy for 3 years, and then 5 years, etc., etc. But in a woman's world, her fantasy is to have a guy for life. But even it's almost like a double think going on. It's, on one hand, women want to have monogamy, but on the other hand, they get bored very easily. You want a stable guy, but stable guy is boring, so you do the effective mating strategy, and then stuff goes down the drain. It's almost like, oh man, like this is a whole headache. It's very interesting to watch to me, the psychology of women and how it plays out, and there's their overt socialization, because I don't think women stop and think, well, a man accepts me being emotional. A man accepts me being, feminine. A man accepts me being afraid of spiders, or any of the things that we akin to a woman's nature. A man accepts me for being the weaker vessel, physically, and a lot of other areas. But rarely do I see women accepting men's nature. There's a huge push to socialize men to be monogamous. How well is that working? How well has that been working for you? It's very strange to see, and it's not a knock at women at all. It's my whole rhetoric is built on awakening people. I'm not talking about woke. Woke. Yeah, that's been commercialized. I don't mean that anymore. I've never even used that word. It's probably like the first time I've said it, in reference to something that I was explaining. But anyways, what I intend to do is make people aware of the fundamentals that got you to where you are. My mind is a very rapid thinker. I think so fast sometimes that I am in analysis paralysis. Because I process so much stuff that I almost override and get stuck, and I'm still processing to the point where I cannot get out my thoughts. I learned how to slow that down throughout my time, throughout my lifetime, and I'm getting a little bit. I'm almost pretty proficient at it, but there are some times where I think too fast to where I skip topics in my own in my voice, and what I'm outputting, but in my head I'm going through them chronologically in the way that I understand them, and I confuse a lot of people with the way that I do that. I try not to, but anyways, I think women need to wake up to this realization and to wake up to what the reality is. Once again, I'm a realist, and it's almost it's almost an oxymoron for me to expect women to understand this while watching a woman's nature, understanding that she's in her own nature and she can't come out of it. I get it, whatever. But there are going to be some women who understand this. There are going to be some men who understand this, who may not have understood this before. There was a long period in time where I tried my damnedest to be monogamous. I'm not saying like I'm a serial cheater or anything like that, but what I'm saying is there was always a drive for me to have more than one woman. But anyway, hold on, I'll be right back. I'm gonna make a phone call real quick, or take this phone call. Hold on. Sorry about that, got a phone call. But anyway, there was always a drive for me to have more than one woman. And I've watched other men go through this same struggle of where they try to force their round, more than one woman self into a square monogamous situation. You can force it, you can push on it, you can shove it. It's eventually going to break, and it's going to cause the situation to be otherwise than what was expected. A lot of men fall victim to their inability to be honest with themselves, and that's the same thing that I've experienced in my lifetime. Falling victim with the inability to be honest with yourself about your own nature. A lot of men don't understand their own nature. They believe the lie that was sold to them when it comes to their nature. They believe that men have been monogamous, or humans have been monogamous for a long time. There are some benefits to monogamy, of course. You can avoid having to put yourself in a situation where you can be at risk for STDs. You don't have to deal with more than one woman's nature. You don't have to work as hard. There are plenty benefits to being monogamous. So I can see why some men would choose to be monogamous. Although at the same time, for the vast majority of our history as human beings, we have been non-monogamous. If you really look into the history of the 200,000 to 400,000 year stint that humans have been on Earth, for some of you believers who believe in other things, two who believe in the other part of it. But anyways, 99% of our existence has been non-monogamous. It still is. People misunderstand the scientific definition behind monogamy. Monogamy means that the first person that you had sex with is the only person who you will have a interpersonal relationship with on an intimate level that includes sex. Those are the parameters for monogamy. Once again, humans generally do not practice monogamy. So it's best for people to get that in their heads. This is a fundamental. This is something that has generally been around for human existence. You can look back through, you can do your own research when it comes to this. This isn't something that I'm making up, that I'm just trying to get a rise out of you about. This is the truth. This is the reality. So, men and women, to expect a man to be monogamous is definitely looking for a unicorn. The quicker you come to the realization that most men don't have a monogamous bone in their body, the quicker it is to deal with how you're going to address that. Like I said in previous videos, if you don't realize there's a problem, you cannot fix the problem. And I'm not saying that a man's nature is the problem. I'm saying that the way you perceive a man's nature is the problem. This is the reason why a lot of women get themselves into situations where they end up hurt. Not physically, but emotionally. Because they have this fantasy in their head, which nothing in the world that they have seen, for the majority, supports it. But once again, this is a woman's nature. This is why women make great fiction writers. They come up with great stories because they can create awesome worlds that don't exist. But I would charge individuals to be responsible for the reality, because just like I told the individual earlier, or yesterday rather, there are two worlds that exist when you do that. You have the fantasy world that you live in, that you can build, that you can create, that you can change into anything that you want it to be. And then you have the reality. You can't maintain both successfully. The longer you stay in one world, the more the other deteriorates, and the faster it deteriorates. So if you live in a fantasy world, your reality is more than likely crumbling around you. And this is why you may have some of the problems you have, if you have any. But anyways, I've gone on long enough. This has just been my talk about the biological imperatives and dispositions of human nature versus the social programming that is going on in the teaching that one should be something socially, even though their nature doesn't support that. But anyways, this has been a Wolf in Bed of Clothes. Peace be with you all, and may you have a good day.